Independent supporters frequently ask me two questions about the EU referendum. The first is, how can you support independence and back Scotland's membership of the EU? Well, the answer to that is simple. I believe that independent countries must cooperate to tackle common challenges. Every member of the EU is an independent country working with others for the greater good. The second question is whether a Brexit vote will mean a second independence referendum. Well, here's what the SNP manifesto at the recent election said about that. The Scottish Parliament should have the right to hold another referendum if there is a significant and material change in the circumstances that prevailed in 2014, such as Scotland being taken out of the European Union against our will. But if you're basing your decision on what it means for independence, let me be very, very clear. The only sensible and logical vote is one for Scotland to remain in Europe. Of course, the big opportunity, the immediate opportunity for this, for the people in Scotland this week is to send a message loudly and clearly by voting SNP on Thursday that we do want to stay in the European Union. We want Scotland to be an independent, a European nation. We do want to stay in the European Union. We want Scotland to be an independent, a European nation. We want Scotland to be an independent, a European nation. Is a wealthy country with vast opportunities, but those opportunities are undermined if we allow ourselves to be dragged out of the European Union against
Scotland
our will.
Scotland had a referendum. We were told it was a once-in-a-lifetime referendum, and it had a result, and you lost. Brexit was supposed to be a once-in-a-lifetime EU referendum, and again, you lost. So you're a serial 100% loser on referendums.
Well,
right?
hold on a minute, Piers. This is
according to your rules, I'm allowed to finish my question. My point is, having lost every referendum that you've ever fought, right? Why should anybody, if you did have another referendum, you somehow forced everybody's hand, why should anybody vote in that referendum? Given that your belief is that it doesn't matter what referendum results come back, we simply ignore them.
Well, this is like your greatest hits, and you're as wrong on this characterisation as you've been every other time you've interviewed me. Let me just take you step by step through that. Scotland didn't vote for independence in 2014, and in case you haven't noticed, Scotland is not independent right now.
Meaning that they accepted the referendum result of 2014 and would have continued to accept the referendum result of 2014 had the EU referendum been different. Had the UK voted to remain in Europe, the idea of independence would not be the topic of conversation today at present. The only reason that we're talking about independence is because in theory there's a possibility of the United Kingdom leaving the European Union, which is something Helmet Head has tried desperately to stop for 3 fucking years.
That vote was respected, but circumstances have changed.
Circumstances have not changed. What has changed? What the fuck has changed? Scotland hasn't been taken out of Europe, nor has the UK left Europe. Nothing has changed at all.
People to change their mind in
I didn't say it was.
democracy.
Hang on. I didn't say that. I said to you, you lost the referendum,
let me finish.
and you don't like the result. You want to play it again.
I've conceded that.
The people have a right to change their minds, like they presumably did in 2017, when the SNP were left a minority government after they lost a third of their seats. Something which Helmet Head herself had to come out and admits was purely down to her talk of independence, or mainly down to her talk of independence. And this is something that they can't afford to occur again. Hence the desperation in trying to ensure as much votes this time round as possible. Span the goalposts in an attempt to scoop up as many different voters as possible. Vote for the SNP if you want to stop Brexit. Vote for the SNP if you wish to escape Brexit. Vote for the SNP if you want independence.
Democracy, people always have the right to change their minds. In that referendum, we were told that we had to reject independence to protect our place in the European Union. Now we face being taken...
Unreal. First of all, in a democracy, parties put forth mandates stating their intentions, and if they're elected, they're expected to carry out the pledges from said mandate. The mandate you required in 2016, which stated Scotland should have a right to hold a referendum if there was circumstantial change, such as being taken out of Europe against our will. And as I've said already, we haven't been taken out of Europe, nor has the UK left Europe. The truth of the matter is, their mandate has only 1 year left, as the 2021 Scottish elections will render it null and void. Hence the demand for a second independence referendum to be held next year. And she's one to talk about Piers Morgan's so-called greatest hits when she herself does nothing other than repeat the same talking points, all of which are either fucking bullshit or deceptive at the very least, including this one. The SNP claimed an independent Scotland would inherit the UK's EU membership, and then the European Union came out to dismiss these claims. So after that fact, they produced a white paper stating that they would attempt to enter negotiations to rejoin Europe. That combined with the fact that people in Scotland were well aware that there was an EU referendum on the cards at a later date, as David Cameron had come out earlier that year to make that pledge if he was to be re-elected in their own upcoming elections. He suggested the vote of 2014 went the way that it did because of EU membership's concerns. It's just an out-and-out fucking lie. I mean, talk about stating the obvious when it comes down to it. If you vote to leave the UK, you leave Europe. If you vote to remain in the UK, you stay in Europe. It's common sense.
Against our will. So people in a democracy, when certain people have the right to change their minds, in that referendum we were told that we had to reject independence to protect our place in the European Union. Now we face being taken out against our will.
Against our will. And how will Nicola Sturgeon be able to continue stating that Scotland wants the same things that she wants if she was to lose more seats in the upcoming election? It's beyond me how people at this point can't see that this is nothing other than a desperate attempt to retain and obtain seats. How does voting for the SNP ensure that you will avoid Brexit? How does voting for the SNP ensure a second independence referendum? None of these assurances can be made. They're not even promises. They're paper-thin attempts to ensure that they will retain and obtain power so this thin-lit fuck can save face. Nicola Sturgeon is trying to subvert the idea of independence, to ensure there is no possibility of Brexit at all, to ensure that we're taken back into Europe because she's a globalist, thin-lipped fuck who cares very little for the people she claims to represent. Why else would she fucking lie on a regular basis?
So it's this. If you were to be successful in your independence, your plan is to then apply to be a member of the EU as Scotland, right?
Yep.
So
I rest my case.